The main man gets his main ride. Here's a look at the brand new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, the gold label collection Lobo and Spacehog. Intergalactic biker Lobo is the last survivor of his alien Zarnian race, but only because he killed the whole lot of them. Crude, rude, and nearly impossible to kill, the super tough bounty hunter wanders the cosmos on his space bike, looking for new and deserving bastages to frag, with plenty of pit stops at local alien bars along the way. Whoosh. Didn't think I was going to get the Spacehog all on screen, but I did. Let's continue. Grab the tape measure first and measure off just how tall Lobo stands. Now, if this Lobo does look familiar to you, it's because they are using the same body again, but they're getting, at least this time, a different head sculpt. He gets not only one brand new head sculpt, but he gets an interchangeable one too. I know what you're thinking. We're going to talk more about that. The figure, though, of Lobo stands 7.5 inches in height, or the figure is going to be about 19 centimeters tall. As for the Spacehog, there is some assembly that's required. I'll show you guys how the assembly worked in a moment. From one end of the Spacehog to the back, you're looking at it being about 18 inches in length, or it's going to be about 48 centimeters long. Speaking of that original Lobo, let's bring him in right now. Yes, while they are using basically the same body from the neck down, the head sculpt is differently done. Now, this one has kind of more looking the way he looks in the comics, a little more of a cartoon look to Lobo. And he also comes with a secondary head portrait also as well. If you are already curious, you didn't want me to wait till the end to tell you, you can then swap out the head sculpts. So if you didn't like this one necessarily and you want to use, say, this head and the other alternate head sculpt on both the Lobo bodies, it's possible. You can do it. Another figure we can also bring in for comparison's sake. Obviously, if he's the main man, he spends a lot of time talking to the Man of Steel. So let's bring in Superman. Let's just get him to stand properly. Here's what Lobo looks like with the Action Comics Superman, one of the best we still have gotten from McFarlane's team. His body isn't the only thing that carries over from the original Lobo, as the figure also comes included with a chain-wrapped hook. The hook is made of softer plastic, so there's a fair bit of gumminess to it. It happens to be the exact same one, yes, that was packed along with the original Lobo. And looking at the two, it would be hard-pressed to kind of say that one is betterly painted. I think they're exactly the same to one another. They fit both around his arms the exact same way. You either can take the hands off, although I haven't heated the hand yet to do it, so we're just going to kind of try to fit it around his hand instead. It basically just loops up around his forearm, and then Lobo's got himself his chain. And then, of course, you can also take the chain itself and hook it into his hand and have the figure displayed like that. Always like that they included these things. The figure also comes included, if I can just get him to stand here for a second, he comes with Dawg. No, not his dog, D-O-G. That's the name of his animal. It's D-A-G, D-A-W-G. He comes with this tiny little pooch. He's not so tiny, in fact. This bulldog is quite large. It does peg in, although it attaches onto the back, though, of the Spacehog. I thought initially that there was a peg specifically dedicated for holding Dawg, but yet, if you look at the bottom of it, even though there's a hexagonal shape on the bottom of his leg, it actually just attaches onto the end spikes of where the thrusters would be. I don't know if it's really a safe idea. I mean, Space Dawg or not, D-A-W-G. But I don't know if I would say it's a safe idea to have the dog so close to the end of the turbines if this thing's rocketing around the skies. Apparently, Lobo doesn't seem to be caring too much. I really like, though, the look of the dog. There's no articulation at all to him. He's basically just a staction piece. He doesn't even have open and closing mouth, but he has himself like a little aviator's cap. It is absolutely adorable, although this thing could probably just maul you to death. Again, like the dog just attaches onto the back thruster. If you guys want to see what that looks like right now, let's just move Lobo out of the way here. If you take the back of the Spacehog, located here on the back, he's got these little extra spikes. You basically just take the dog, and even though really the shapes don't match up with one another, you just attach the dog onto the end of it, and the dog basically is just hanging on for dear life. The dog doesn't seem all that concerned, even though, like, again, all the thrusters are going to be coming back out the back of the turbines here. The dog also looks, in a way, like he's peeing. Doesn't it look like he's peeing on the back of the Spacehog? Anyways, that's the place where you're going to be storing the dog. The figure also comes included with his guitar. I love this guitar. The guitar, though, if you look at the bottom of it, is a little more on the hollow side, but then Lobo does actually have a means to at least hold it. This guitar also does serve a place, as you can attach onto the display stand. Let's move his alternate head out of the way here. Let's first actually just take the chain out of his hand, because, again, it's softer plastic. It's going to be a little harder to kind of get everything off here. And just unloop it from his forearm. We'll just put it off to the side. Yeah, you can take yourself the guitar and you just want to take it and loop it inside his hand. At least one thing is that the plastic is pretty easy. Even though the plastic is a little harder on his fingers, at least the grip is wide enough that it's very easy to get the guitar in his hand, and he can strung some tunes while he's soaring through the spatial skies. One thing you can also do, as already mentioned, is that you can take the guitar, let go, take the guitar, and if you look at the display base, you know what I'll do is I'll just move Lobo out of the way here for a second. The Spacehog actually does attach. I'm just going to remove it from its display stand for right now. Just put it down here for a second. If you look at the actual display base, a really nice looking display. It's not even flat circular either. It's actually got like a little bit of depth to it. But you'll see that there's a peg right here and a peg right here. You take yourself the guitar and you want to attach it. So see these little holes on the bottom of it? You're just going to line everything up. And when you attach them, you want to make sure that you're attaching. I want to make sure I've got this facing the right way. Do I have it facing? I think I do. You want to have it so it's basically leaning out to the edge, because if you want to have it this way, it's going to be too close to the peg. So you just line out all the peg holes up, slot it in place. There we go. And you got yourself the guitar already attached onto the display stand. Then you can take yourself the Spacehog. I'm surprised that Dawg didn't end up falling off. That's D-A-W-G. I know I'm going to get that right. Attach that onto the display stand, and yes, now you've got yourself the Spacehog nicely displayed. Bringing back in, though, Lobo here, and getting a closer look at the figure. Now, I'm going to bring back in the original Lobo that we did get. I mean, fine for a figure it was. I still think that the Lobo is one of my, I'd say even top 12 favorite figures. I know normally people would just always put it in the ranking system of 10. But yeah, he's definitely still one of the better looking figures that we've gotten from McFarlane's team. One thing I do like, though, about the newer one is it does take the approach kind of more of an animated look. He's got a big smile across his face, very large eyes. Something that perhaps the older one couldn't quite accomplish. This one also has the shorter hair. The newer Lobo has slightly longer locks, but the rest of the figure's body is going to be exactly the same. I mean, to sticklers to detail, you could probably just look at that and say well, the skull, for example, is a little bit more shinier of a finish, and you'd be right. I mean, obviously, the lower end of his legs is really where you see it stand out the most. A lot shinier of a silver was approached when it came to the paint. It's a little duller here on the original Lobo, but the bodies are going to be exactly the same. The shirts are a little bit brighter on this one. Obviously, like it looks like maybe his vest isn't as shiny as the original Lobo, but other than that, they're exactly the same to one another. Now, there's this head sculpt that the figure comes included with, and then there's also this one. I'm trying to remember the issue in which this Lobo was featured on the front with this specific head sculpt. I happen to think of it. I'll tell you at the end in final looks. But he has two very superior head sculpts, I feel. There's this one, and again, there's alternate head sculpt of this one. Now, if you're kind of torn as to which one you'd like to have the figure displayed with, I share your similar feelings of being torn. What you can also do, too, is that you can take yourself your Lobo. If I just get him to stand here for a second. I don't know why he's not standing as well as I really would have hoped. Just get him to rest right now. You can actually, in fact, take this head sculpt off for Lobo, and you can replace it then with this head sculpt, which I might just end up doing. The problem with it, though, is every single time I've removed the head, what ends up happening also as well is usually the ball joint gets pulled out as well, or the ball joint, I should say, stays behind in the neck. Funny enough, it worked this time perfectly. It knew I was filming. We're going to just take the ball joint on the bottom of the head, just plug it back into the neck. A little bit of pressure is required. If you can't get it in quite right away, you can always as well heat it up in hot water. And now you have two Lobos with the brand new head sculpts with both. Boy, that would have been a bummer, wouldn't it, if McFarlane had decided just to use an alternate ball joint, like a completely different sized one, so there was no way at all you could actually use both heads. But they didn't, and I'm glad that they didn't either. Great looking head sculpts on both. I mean, I think really between the two, I really like this one the most. But now I don't feel torn like I have to put one back in a bag. I can have both figures displayed with both superior head sculpts. Just moving this Lobo out of the way for a second, I just want to show you guys what this head sculpt does look like up close and personal. It's such a cool looking Lobo. Now, obviously, there's talks right away that Jason Momoa is going to be playing a Lobo in an upcoming DC. Now that we've got the James Gunn universe and Aquaman has now wrapped up, I'd be fine for the idea of Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa, I mean, honestly, let's face facts, was almost always really better suited for being a Lobo than he was for Aquaman. I think he definitely could pull the part off nicely. You got these large mutton chops, sideburns on the side, very large red eyes, very nice visible teeth, and a little mustache on top. Perfect looking Lobo, but again, like both the head sculpts are really so good on this figure. So those are the figures themselves, and obviously let's bring back the original one, because I mean, obviously I could just show you guys the articulation on the other one, but Let's stick with the one at least that comes included with the Spacehog. For his articulation, it's going to be the exact same as the one that we got from before. So the head's going to be on a ball joint. Mileage may, of course, vary with how much movement you can actually get from the head itself. It doesn't move almost, I mean, really doesn't really move almost at all when it comes to up and down. More so just rotating back and forth. The upper torso is going to be on a ball joint. The lower torso, right down but by his tummy does also have a ball joint, so you can rotate that all the way around. Lobo's arms do rotate also all the way around. You can hinge them out. Now, I've noticed with the arms, they're really tight on this figure. Like this one, I had to really work away at to finally loosen up. And the elbows, I noticed, are really tight also as well. Not complaining, not complaining. I would rather have tighter joints in these figures than overly loose joints. The figure does have a bicep swivel. He does also have, like I said, a double hinge on the elbow, and the hands do rotate all the way around. Legs do split out on Lobo's legs. You can take the legs and move forward, move them back, a swivel at the top of the thigh, double hinge on the knee. And again, your standard articulation with the ankle, up and down motion that way. Did I say motion? Motion up and down this way. Rocket back and forth this way. And the figure does also have toe articulation as well. So that's Lobo. Glad also that they simply released, even if it was still the same figure, the fact that they actually released it with the Spacehog, because they could have easily just released the Spacehog on its own, slapped on, I don't know what the $40, $50 price point for even just the vehicle alone, and then if you already had the Lobo, you would have been fine. Maybe they could have thrown in some extra heads. But that they actually did include another secondary Lobo, and the benefit of also having the same universally sized ball joints. Really nice, the fact that McFarlane would actually consider doing that. As for, though, the Spacehog, like I said, some assembly was required. I'm just going to take this off the display stand. It seems to remove a lot easier from the actual base than it does from the top here. Oh, there goes Dawg. We can just put him off to the side here. This attaches onto the bottom, but really once you get this on it and attached, it's very difficult to remove. It's almost even easier just to remove it from the display stand. But you'll see that there's a little slot here on the side. See, there's a little lip of plastic, and it fits in kind of a deliberate key-shape hole. So when you plug it in place, for all intents and purposes, you could also just leave it off together. And if you want to just have this on your shelf like this, or if you wanted to suspend it from the ceiling with string, you could also do that as well. Some assembly was required. The whole front spike that he has, the blade on the front with the skull head, this whole part goes all the way up to the top with the handlebars all in one piece. You have to slot this in. So basically this part of the front of the Spacehog slots into the front of the bike. So this plugs in here, and then you'll plug in this section and this section into provided holes on the sides of his engine, and then you just snap them in on the sides, and everything now is good to go. It is a nice detailed bike, although honestly, it's fairly light. I mean, I thought there was going to be a lot more plastic weight going on here, but even like the back thrusters, it feels very hollow. The coloring is actually really quite good. They've used like a metallic blue for the majority of its body, rusting up really nicely. The back turbines here. Again, it really does look good, but it was very misleadingly light, which is not a problem at all. I mean, even if it's a light vehicle, the fact it's painted, even the fact that we're having this discussion of Lobo coming included with a Spacehog, I mean, I don't mind at all that it's more of a hollow plastic. And again, what you'll do is just take it, put back the post onto the display stand, line everything up provided here to the bottom of the peg. There we go, snap it in place. And then, of course, if you want to take yourself Lobo, you're just going to bring his legs forward, bend the knees slightly, and then just bring his arms forward. And he does actually fit perfectly on the bike. I mean, he has the little struts there on the front that support his feet. And then you take yourself the hands there, Lobo, and they just snap in place. Snapping's generally not the word that you really want to use when describing figures. Spin this around. We're going to take the other hand and we'll just snap that in place. There we go. And now Lobo is mounting his Spacehog. And it looks fantastic. Again, you can also take yourself Dawg, and we'll just spin this around to the back here. Just take the peg and plug it in place. You probably could also put it on this side also as well, but I just kind of like to have, I mean, even the packaging has him. Do I have him facing the right way? Even the packaging has him facing this way. So it does look like he's sort of peeing on the back of the bike. Whatever safety issues I would have with the idea that a dog is riding on the back of a space bike, whether that be the case or not, let's just plug that all the way on there. There we go. Man, he is a nice looking showpiece. What a great looking set. Now again, they could have easily just released the vehicle on its own with the whole idea in mind that collectors would have already sourced out getting the individual Lobo. But the fact that they also included a Lobo with it, some would say maybe like unnecessary, because if you already have the figure, why would you even need to get a secondary one? The answer to that is because now you have two different brand new head sculpts. If you like the logo from Lobo from before, and you weren't necessarily a fan of this head sculpt, which is this one right here, the fact that we do get now not one, but two really superior head sculpts, I feel at least, all the more reason to get up, not only getting on board, no pun intended, getting on board the actual Spacehog, but the idea that, again, you're getting this as a complete set. You're getting this with already the dog included, and you're also getting a brand new Lobo. And even if you didn't get the other Lobo, you have everything that you already need. You don't have to worry about trying to source out online and try to get tracked down. I don't think the older Lobo was all that expensive either. If you didn't already have the original one, the only unfortunate thing is that you don't have another alternate body to use one of the head sculpts with, so you would have to choose which one you would have to go with. If I had to choose, say if somebody was bending my arm and saying you had to choose one Lobo head sculpt, probably would have gone with this one. This is the better really of the two. Nice looking bike, a little on the light side, but it more than makes up with the detail and the fact we have a Lobo figure included with it, not to mention Dawg tailing on the back of the bike. I don't know too much about space bikes, but if it's anything like land bikes, you may want to be holding onto the handlebars. Yet it doesn't seem to be flinching much, the main man. He's just leaning back with his bro, the dog, playing out some tunes on his 3-neck guitar. One thing that you can do, at least with the guitar, if you don't want to have it displayed with the figure, there's conveniently placed plastic pegs on the display stand that you can attach the guitar that way. The bike, unfortunately, is wreaking havoc when it comes to my turntable, just because the weight is a little off-balanced. Most of the weight is located on the back of the bike, and I have to kind of have the bike a little further back so it actually gets a full rotation. The bike itself is made of fairly hollow plastic, which was a little jarring. I actually expected the weight to be a little heavier than what it was. It's decently detailed for what it is. Very little in the way of assembly was required. All the front section of the silver section of the bike that has the blade and the skull is all one unit that goes with the rest of the handlebars. It's just a case of snapping in the front, plugging on the side pegs to the provided engine on the bike, and you're ready to go, sailing through the skies. I do also like that this bike also came included with a display stand. So if you didn't really want to have this just flat on your shelf, you at least can elevate it a little bit. And the display stand is decently detailed as well. He does come also included with the dog. Dog is a nice little accessory. It doesn't have much in the way of it. Well, it doesn't have any accessory really at all, any articulation at all, but it's fine for really what it is. I'm just happy the fact that we also got ourselves a Spacehog that came included with a Lobo. I mean, if you didn't get your chance to get that first Lobo, which was a fine figure for its time, now you get the benefit of getting another Lobo, and if you already have the other one, you get the reward of actually being able to use 2 different head sculpts that come included with this release, and just pop it off the other Lobo that I showed you guys in this review, and you can have Lobo with 2 updated head sculpts. Really smart on McFarlane's part, not only just to include an extra Lobo, but also 2 alternate head sculpts, that if you didn't already pick up the original Lobo, there's more incentive nudging you in the direction of picking up that singular release. What do you guys, though, think of Lobo along with the Spacehog? Have you guys had the chance to pick up this one for yourself? Let me know what you think of it down below in the comments section. Also, hey, guys, if you enjoyed this video, why not throw it a like? If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, I don't think that turntable is going to rotate all the way around. You can do it. You can do it. If you guys did enjoy this video, though, yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. We got a whole bunch more of DC Multiverse reviews coming your way, so make sure you're coming back here on a regular basis. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.